Happy Homebrew Wednesday, everybody. Well, I wanted to do a brown malt based brown porter, like a brown ale, brown porter for Thanksgiving, because that's just around the corner and I wanted to have some time for it to get ready. Now I went to my online provider of malts because here in my part of Spain there are no homebrew shops, so we do everything online. But my homebrew supply out of Madrid, they have no brown malt. So I checked some other places, and I could possibly order it from Belgium, but between shipping costs, it's just not worth it because everything else at that particular outlet is very expensive. I only buy like Star San in bulk and things like that from that place because then it's worth it. But to pay twice as much for shipping than the brown malt costs, then it's not really worth it to me. So after reading online for a while, I found a few places that were talking about the history of brown malt and how the maltsters basically would sweep up the remains off the floor, wash them, dry them, and then kiln them for like a little less than an hour, and basically voila, you have brown malt. So, and then there's other places online that says, yeah, you can make your own brown malt from your base malt. So that's what I'm going to do today. So the recipe I'm using calls for 500 grams or just a little over a pound of brown malt. So this is, they suggest really that you use something like Maris Otter or an English base malt for this, like a pale or an extra pale malt. I don't have Maris Otter. For most of my recipes I use a Belgian pale ale malt, which is, it's a two-row variety out of Belgium, so it's a little bit darker than a pale, like a regular two-row. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and roast this at 200 degrees Celsius, which is about 400 degrees Fahrenheit, for about 50 minutes. It doesn't say to do so, but I'm going to stir it and mix it over the course of the 50 minutes, every maybe 15 minutes. Now this is about ½ inch deep, about a little more than a centimeter actually, a little more than a ½ inch deep. So I don't want it to be one thin layer on a big cookie sheet, so I put it in this brownie tray. So my oven is already ready, and let me go ahead and stick it in there. And voila. Alright, well, let me see how it looks in about 15 minutes. So let me go ahead and start my timer. Alright, so every 15 minutes this is going to go off, and I'll go ahead and give it a quick stir and see how it's coming out. Alright, check back in. Okay, I'm back. It hasn't been 15 minutes, but I have 8 minutes left on the 15 minutes, but the house already smells like toasted malt. It's amazing. I'm going to already stir it. It's because it's already seeming to toast quite a bit on the top layer, and it's already significantly darker. I'm tending to it because I don't want it to burn, and I don't want it to go uneven. I want it to remain fairly even throughout the toasting process. But it smells amazing. You know that smell that you get from the mash, once you put everything in, you start to mix it in, it starts to steep, and you get that wonderful grain aroma from the mash. Well, that's this times 10. It's like an oatmeal beer cookie. Just really smells nice in here. Anyway, check back in. Okay, I'm back. We're running on 5 minutes left, so I'm going to give it a quick stir. The nice oatmeal toasty aroma has now changed to one that's a little more acrid, a little more astringent, which is normal because we're now getting into the darker of the roasts when you get into brown malt. As you can see, the kernels are much darker. Now, the husks remained fairly, light brown, like khaki tan. I don't know if you can see it. Some of those kernels are fairly, very dark brown. And so I took some out just to see how they would look. So I don't know if you can check this out. Okay, so here is the regular pale malt, right? Okay, so this is the regular pale malt, and this is the new brown malt. Now, if you check out the new, there we go. So if you check out the new brown malt, it looks fairly tan or khaki. But if I take out the husk, I don't know if you can see that. I'm really bad with the camera today. It's actually very, very dark, like a brownish black, which is exactly what I'm looking for. So in tasting one across the other, that's definitely that brown malt roastiness that I was looking for. Ooh, bit bitter, but that's exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for something bordering that blacker chocolate malt and a toasted malt. So we're right where I want it to be. I got 2 minutes left, but that's about it. The next step is to take it out of the oven, to cool it, and to put it in a paper bag for the next week or so. The reason is that smell that I was describing earlier, that astringent smell, that needs to kind of degas and mellow. It's the same thing if you toast oats for a toasted oat beer. Make sure that you put it in a paper bag and degas it and let it mellow out for about a week. So because I'm making this not this coming Saturday but the following Saturday, I wanted to have this ready by then, and I'm doing a little bit of advanced prep work just to make sure it happens the way I'm looking at it happening. Now the recipe, I'm basing it off the Brewing Classic Styles book, which does mention a brown porter. So because I wanted to do a dark brown ale like Alex Rock, he gave me a recipe last year that came out really, really good. And to be honest with you, it was, rather than a really dark brown ale, it was really bordering on a porter because you really couldn't see through it. So I have a feeling that his recipe was really pushing onto that style of a brown porter rather than a brown ale. But the caramel malts that were in it leaned it towards the brown ale, like a dark brown ale. So it's hard to describe, because when you get into a brown porter, it's not as much based on a caramel malt as it is toasted malts or roasted malts. Anyway, if you want to check out Alex Rock's beer blog, just look up Alex Rock or Rock on Beer blog on YouTube. Check out his channel. I think it's Rock on Beer or something like that.com. I'm sure if you go on his channel, you'll see a link to Alex's website. But most of his updates are on his video, but he makes really great videos right over there in Denmark. Anyway, I'll check you all out later. Let me go ahead and get this bagged up. My alarm's going to beep to say that my 50 minutes is done, and there we are. Okay, before I cut out, I wanted to get a good shot of the final product. As you can see, the husks are much lighter, but the grains on the inside are just like brown malt should be. So I'm very happy with the results. Let's see how happy I'm going to be when I start using it. Definitely brown malt-ish. Anyway, there we go.